This is Laura DeFranco, holistic physical therapist and owner of Brave Healer Productions. I'm excited to bring you my new holistic healing series where you're going to learn from the experts what it means to live fiercely alive, mind, body, and soul. I invite you now to take a breath, relax, and feel the vibe of the words my guest has to share with you today. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I have a special guest here to help me change the world one brave word at a time. I'm excited to introduce to you Jennifer Wren Tolo. She is a nurse, whole health educator, energy healer, and mother of 4 boys. She works with overwhelmed mothers and children with special challenges, tame the chaos of their lives so they can take back control of their health and happiness, one choice, action, and moment at a time. You guys are going to be hooked up with her website and you're going to want to explore further. Jennifer, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here and we get to talk about this new book that's coming out.
Yes, I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So tell us a little bit about your story. Like, how did you get here today doing what you're doing in the world?
Yeah. Well, I started out as a nurse, a critical care nurse, and I thought I was going to change health that way. Always been a nurturer, always been interested in kind of keeping body, minds healthy. Later on, I really connected to the spirit, but it took having my children to really shift my focus. My second son was born and he had a massive stroke. And with that experience, it really showed me the gaps in healthcare and the gaps in how we treat the whole person, or should I say how we don't treat the whole person. We're looking at just systems of the body. So when my son was born, I remember waking up in the hospital, like completely devastated because my baby is about 30 miles away. I had a C-section. I'm stuck in the hospital. My husband's with my son. And I was just this foggy, couldn't really think. I was just caught up in my own sort of feeling sorry for myself. This is not how it was supposed to be. And then I got this really clear message that just said, just breathe. So I took some really deep breaths and it was like the fog just lifted. And then I had this urgency to just be with my child because I got another message that said, you just need to connect to him. He will let you know what he needs. And so I arrived at the hospital. My husband, who's a surgeon, is laboring over neonatal intensive care. And I was like, babe, we just need to be here with him. He's going to let us know. And I just literally wanted to hold him as much as I could. I wanted to just feel this baby and connect with this baby. And from there, I dove into nutrition. I dove into understanding the brain and understanding what he's going to need on his path. I became a personal trainer because I thought maybe if I help him move because he had a right-sided weakness, maybe if I can learn how to help his muscles and everything. And I had a dear friend of mine, Bonnie, who said, he's going to need Reiki. Let me train you in Reiki. And it's interesting because she tried to train me in Reiki before and I wasn't having it, but there's nothing I won't do for my child. Anyway, all the things that I learned with my son and put into place. Fast forward a couple years and my third son, the same day I found out I was having my 4th son, my third son was diagnosed with leukemia. But the good news is I knew what I needed to do. I did Reiki on him every day. I had all the tools. I had the connection. I opened up to my intuitive knowing. I awakened to my spirit. But I remember, and this is why I sort of started to do the coaching and really got into the nutrition and the connecting people to themselves and their own needs, is because when I went to the nutritionist in the clinic, they said for my son, I was like, what should I be feeding him? And this is like, we're giving this kid chemotherapy, killing all of his cells. And I knew that nutrition was important to fuel and feed the cells and to regenerate cells. And I would see these families waiting with, and I say this in the book, waiting with McDonald's and Dairy Queen and Smiles for their child to get out just to give them this treat to make them feel better. But I also knew that like, that's not going to help them heal. That's not going to feed their fuel their body to regenerate and heal and be healthy. So I dove into nutrition, then got my first nutrition certification, and really focused on getting really good, nutritious food into my son. And now I'm happy to report my son that had a stroke is 18 and applying to colleges right now. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he's going to get into the college. He's applying for music. And then the child that had leukemia, who hates being known as the kid with cancer, that had cancer, he is strong, healthy 15-year-old boy. So wow. I'm psyched. My kids are healthy and happy. My family's healthy and happy. And I put this book together to help other families be healthy and happy.
Oh my gosh, so many questions for you about how you would even handle a life like you were dealt. But of course, we just do it, and we do it one day at a time. So you guys, Family Fuel, a busy mom's guide to healthy living for the family. You guys are going to be so, oh man, you're just going to be loving the wisdom and the awareness in this book, not to mention the recipes. But, so aside from some amazing, healthy, tasty recipes, this book has a level of awareness about family connection that I really enjoyed. And so let's talk about that piece of the book for a moment. Talk to me about this connection piece and why this is so important, and what made you do a kind of a book where that was the focus. This is not just a cookbook, you guys.
Right. Yes, let's make that clear. There's a lot of science, there's a lot of research in there, and there's a lot of personal experience. Well, I was seeing a lot of people coming to me and really stressed out and following extremes and disconnected from themselves, disconnected from their bodies, disconnected from their kids and their families, listening to everybody else telling them what they should do, what what the latest trend was, and what oh, you give your child sugar, he shouldn't have sugar, you should eliminate or putting this person on soy and this. And I thought, you know what, guys, there is no one size fits all. And you're creating so much more stress in your lives when you're trying to keep up with the Joneses and follow everybody else telling you what you should be doing, instead of connecting to what you know and what works for you and your family. So it's funny, for example, with my children, some of my kids could eat those like dye-free candies, like the gummies and stuff. My son that had the stroke, when he would have anything that had dye in it or had sugar in it, he was a maniac. Like his body could not handle the chemicals that were in the dyes. So it was some of my boys that were okay with that stuff, didn't go crazy with that stuff, were really angry because they're like, why can't we have this stuff in our house? I said, because I can't have it for your brother. And when you're out or when you're at your friend's house, I'm not going to be as strict. You can have it. But unfortunately for our family, this can't be in our house. So it's, instead of saying because I said so, or leaning down, like putting these dogmas down, it's important for people to connect to the why of things, to connect to the how of things, and to connect to their own mind, body, and spirit's messages that are telling you, do I like this? Do I not like this? Is this good for me? Is this not good for me? And get away from extremes. The extremes don't work. They just throw us more out of balance. So when we're worried about outside exterior things, we're not connected. We're spinning on this wheel of life. Instead, if we slow down, tune in, get connected to what works for us and what the messages of our life are telling us, then we can truly move through sustainably, realistically, and with more connection and be empowered with our choices because we're motivated to make them.
I love this so much.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So there is so much information about what's good to eat and what's bad to eat out there. It can become very overwhelming. You're talking about this already today.
Yes.
So not to mention the pace at which our society is used to running at. It seems like there's no time to slow down. Yeah. No time to pay attention to that information, even if we had time to look at it. So you broke it down in several easy ways inside of this book. And, the past year has been a great chance for people to actually do some of that slowing down. Yes. So, okay, the first question here is, how do we consume all of the what's right stuff info out there in a way that's maybe a little easier? You had like a red light.
Yeah, stoplight diet, the stoplight diet. Yeah, that's what I use for kids, to teach kids. And it's funny because I would go into schools. In fact, one school in particular, my son, the one who had the brain injury, was at this one school. And I was like, oh my God, the stuff that you're feeding these kids. No, and half these kids had attention issues and they're loading them with sugar and crap. I'm like, how's that going to make their brain function? So I talked to the school about it, you know, because I'm not shy. And they said, well, how do you propose that we do this? And in a lot of my research for some of my nutrition programs, I came across the stoplight diet. That's an old diet. It's an old way of teaching people. And I've actually seen it. Some restaurants, some private schools use this in the cafeterias. So the red foods are foods that are like stop, not don't eat them, but don't eat them every day. And just be aware of stop and pause. Do you really want that? Do you really need that? And, you know, connect to the messages there. Yellow light foods are the foods that you can eat every day. They have nutrition to them, but they're maybe more high calorie. And so you want to watch your portions on those and the amount that you eat. And then your green foods are the go foods that you can eat as much of, as many of as possible. Fruits and vegetables, for example. So I use that to teach kids in particular, but I think that unfortunately our society is so focused on don'ts and shoulds and should nots. And to be honest with you, I love my sweets. I love my wine. And if you tell me I can't have something or I shouldn't eat that, it makes me want it even more.
Of course.
Right. And there's a reason why sugar tastes good to us. There's a reason, because of that high driving, go society that we live in. We're exhausted, we're burned out, we're wired, and we're tired because we're drinking these energy drinks and you know, caffeine to try to stimulate us because we're not getting enough sleep. We're not digesting our food because we're eating on the run all the time. And we're not connecting to the messages of, are we full? Are we hungry? Are we bored? We're so disconnected from the messages that we get about food that we're letting other people tell us what's right for us when it's not always right for us, right?
Yeah.
I tried to be a vegetarian because I've read and I heard this is really good for you. I was tired. I'm not saying being a vegetarian, some people, it's a great diet for you. For me, I need a little bit of protein, of animal protein in my diet. So it's trying things and figuring it out, not following something because you should, because society's telling you. There are diets that are out there that don't work. They might make you lose weight, but then people binge. So when I do a reset, I help people add stuff back in so they can tune into, does your body like this? Does your body not like this? And mindfully eat. That's the thing. If we slow down and eat our food and take the time to be present with our food and present with our families, we don't eat as fast. We don't eat as much. It shows in the research in the book. We don't eat as much. We don't eat as fast. And we can tune into the body's signal of, am I hungry or am I full now? And we can rest and digest that food. We're in such a sympathetic overload where we're in that fight or flight. People have so many digestive issues because we never allow ourselves to get into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest. So people talk about leaky gut and all this stuff, but the reason why is because we're shoving food in our system and we're not allowing our system to calm down and digest that food. That's what we need, is to tune in to how we're eating, why we're eating, what we're eating, and our emotions that 9 times out of 10 drive what we're eating.
So there are a lot of other things that can happen if we don't slow down and pay attention to our food and to each other. There's like 2 subjects here, you know, there's human connection and that whole discussion, but you mentioned leaky gut. I know people are paying attention to when you just said that.
Yep.
What else is going to happen if we don't do this? What other things have you seen?
I've seen, so stress in general can affect, and there's all sorts of, as a whole health practitioner, I look at stress from different viewpoints. So nutritional stress. So nutritional stress would be something like sugar or things that that our body doesn't like any sensitivity to food that we have. If we eat that food, it creates stress in our body. And when we stress our body, it affects our gut, because that's where we're digesting many of our nutrients, is in our gut. And when we have leaky gut, usually it's because we, our microbiome, which is the gut bacteria, the healthy gut bacteria, that's out of balance. And when that gets out of balance, the walls, the intestinal walls, these things called decimiers, kind of become permeable, because the bad bacteria attacks the intestines. So I don't want to do a science thing here, but basically that creates the leaky gut. And there are multiple things that can create that. Leaky gut is not a disorder. It's a symptom. It's something that happens, right? And by feeding your body all this bacteria and taking probiotics, that's not necessarily fixing the system, because you don't know what you're deficient in. You don't know what helps your gut and what harms your gut. So what happens is, when that happens, your body can't absorb the right nutrients. So because it's permeable, certain nutrients that your body needs, right, especially to support the stress response, to support healing, like B vitamins, like, all sorts of calcium, all sorts of vitamins and minerals that your body needs, it's not necessarily being able to absorb it in the gut. And unfortunately, some things that are toxic to the body, like metals and chemicals, can get through the gut. So that's what creates that leaky gut and can make you feel really sick and can create disease. And it's also tied to our emotions, because many of our neurotransmitters and our hormones, like serotonin, that help us feel good and feel better, dopamine, that's our pleasure center, that's produced in the gut. So when we have a leaky gut and our gut's not healthy, we're not producing the neurotransmitters that we need to feel mentally and emotionally better, to feel calmer, to feel fired, our brain to fire. We, our muscles aren't getting the nutrients that we need to go about our daily living. So we're exhausted. And then if there's any sort of imbalance, that's when we can get disease and dysfunction in certain parts. So it's like this spiral effect. But again, the main cause isn't necessarily the leaky gut. It's just a part of it, right? It's a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. So you made me want to ask you one other question. You said something really important, and a lot of doctors are throwing probiotics at people.
Yes.
And they're saying, and again, talking about these things that we hear that are right to do now if you want to have a better gut. And of course, the connection to the immune system. It's like our main connection to our immune system health.
Especially now.
Yes. Okay, so probiotics, I heard what you said there. And I've also heard about digestive enzymes, another hot topic. So are you going to say the same thing about that?
I have to say that for the average person, right, I am not a big fan of adding supplements to people's. First thing I say is, let's get the real food in, because the food has whole food, I will say, not processed foods, whole food. So like that whole piece of fruit versus the juice of a fruit, right? The whole piece of fruit, the whole vegetable has everything your body needs to digest that and absorb that and create balance in your body. What happens is, when we start processing because we want the quick fixes, we have this fear of food in our society that prevents us from enjoying food, prevents us from, we're like, we know that we need the food to fuel our bodies, but we're going to get it in a way that it can like bypass our senses. So like the smoothies, the juices, I just drank a smoothie, so I enjoy smoothies, but the smoothies, the juices, the microwavable meals, the things that are fully processed, that's what dysregulates our body, because our body's like, what is this? I don't know what to do with this. And so I always tell people, get your probiotics from foods, your pre and probiotics. Fiber is one of the best probiotics you can have. Guess what's full of fiber? Fruits and vegetables. Yeah. Guess what Americans eat very little of? Fruits and vegetables, right? Yeah. And, there are people, when you are so far out of balance. So this is my analogy with all of that. Whether it's supplements or medications or enzymes that you take, my analogy to health is, let's say you have a drain that is not draining. It's sort of, you're noticing that your drain is slow to empty the water out. Then you can look at it and be like, oh, okay, I need to pay attention to this. It's giving me the signal that something's a little out of balance here. So I can use the baking soda and the vinegar to naturally unclog my drain and get things flowing again. But if I ignore that drain and I let the drain get to the point where there is standing water in that drain, the baking soda and the water aren't going to cut it. I need to break out the chemicals. So I need to go buy the Drano or whatever. I'm not getting promoted, but I need to break out the Drano and use the chemicals because I'm so far out of balance that I need a little bit of help to just get back. And once I get back into balance, then I can use the natural stuff to maintain. So that's what I say to people, that just willy-nilly going to that's the problem, is they're not regulated. Supplements are not regulated. And so you don't know what you're getting and what you're putting into your body. And a lot of the probiotics people take are like maybe 2 forms of probiotic. Those might not be what your gut needs. You might have plenty of that gut. So then we're getting things called SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, because people are popping these pills like candy. And because this is a trend that we're following. Now, I'm not saying nobody should take probiotics. I'm not saying nobody should take any enzymes, digestive enzymes. I just think we're a little too quick to jump on the trendy train when that can actually throw our body more out of balance and not help but harm.
Right.
So caution, I have the yellow flags up on those plays.
Yes, I love that too. And because it's a quicker fix rather than having to actually do the hard work of shopping for, planning your meals that are healthy, chewing your apple.
Right.
I mean, you know,
and getting an apple, it's easier to stop into a store and say, oh, I'll take that juice because I know I should have this and my body needs it.
Right.
But guess what's missing from that juice? Fiber.
Yeah, the good stuff.
So you're getting all the sugar, and it takes about 5 times as much of that fruit or that vegetable to produce that glass of juice.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So let's switch gears a little bit. I want to know what the favorite part of being in the kitchen with your family is for you.
Well, I have teenagers now. So my boys, and during this, the time of quarantine, this pandemic, my boys can eat. And I love to cook. I love to feed my kids and their friends. So I often have more than just my boys at my house. And I have a big kitchen island. I designed my kitchen so I could be social. And I have this big kitchen island that has chairs around the island, and my stovetop is on the island. Mm. So I will often be cooking, helping kids with their homework, talking, having conversations, sometimes playing a card game or a game of Uno between my whatever saute or whatever I'm doing. But I absolutely love to cook. I love that my kids see the whole food ingredients. They give me a hard time because like my youngest says, you're such a vegan. And he thinks because I'm healthy, I'm a vegan, which I said, I'm cooking meat right now. That's not a vegan, right? But I just love that they see the love, the time, the attention that goes into what I'm feeding them. I love that I really try to get them to be a part of. One of my sons cooks, cooks well, and the others kind of cook a little bit, but not much, like eggs, mac and cheese. That's about their repertoire. Maybe a grilled cheese once in a while, but they can. And I love that they appreciate what good food tastes like, because when we even I've been to a restaurant with them and my kids will say, yours is better. Mm. Which is to me the highest praise.
Best compliment ever.
Right. Yes. The problem is my husband doesn't love going out to dinner because he's like, you make this stuff. I'm like, yeah, but I want a break.
Exactly. You deserve a break.
Exactly. But that's my favorite thing. And the conversations, that's it. It's the connection piece, the conversations as I'm cooking, the connection where I can be present with fueling my family nutrient wise, yes, but yet fueling that connection and the spirit and the mind of my kids as we're talking around that table. So many awesome conversations have happened around my dinner table. And that's, yes, to me, best thing in the world. That's how I know my kids, and my kids know they're loved and they're important because I give them that and they give me that. Sometimes they're like, okay, can we just sit here and can I just do my homework?
You guys, this is part of what you're going to get in this beautiful new book is Jen's energy and love for this, and the way that she shares that with her family and shares it with you in the book. It's amazing, Jen. This book is so amazing. Family Fuel, A Busy Mom's Guide to Healthy Living for the Family. You guys, it's coming on February 22nd. So if you're listening to this beforehand, stay tuned. And of course, if you're listening to this after the 22nd, it's on Amazon, you guys. But Jen, is there anything else you'd like to share about what's going on in your world beyond the book? Like what sort of programs do you have? What's going on for your business?
Well, I'm about to launch my 5-day Family Fuel Challenge to coincide with the book launch, which is basically for 5 days, I'm helping people, immersing people into the book, taking them through aspects of the book and helping them with meal planning, meal prep, quick tips to kind of bypass if you're in a rush. What kinds of things can you do to still fuel your family with nutritious food? Videos where I give tips every day. So there'll be a video support and everybody will get the book with this. So you'll have the link for that. But I do one-on-one coaching. I do group coaching, basically helping people with learning how to tune into their messages, to stop looking outside themselves for the answers and really tune into themselves for the answers. Learning how to take care of themselves and put themselves on the map, learning how to manage the stress in their lives, learning how to roll with whatever comes in their life, because things happen and it's our resistance to what is that creates the disease and imbalance. So you people can reach out to me either through email, Jen at Butterfly Family Wellness, or they can go onto my website, butterflyfamilywellness.com, and I'm happy to help connect. But I love to give talks to parents groups, to healthcare professionals, to educators, all on how do we support the mind, body, and spirit. And I have a bunch of different talks, which are also on my website, but I can customize any talk. In this book, I have actually given talks on these topics in this book. So that's my passion, actually.
Awesome. I love it. So you guys, the book, we're going to have a beautiful live stream book launch event on the Brave Badass Healers business page on Facebook. So I'm going to hook you up down there too with that information. So if you're around on February 22nd, 10 o'clock Eastern, come join us because Jen has some pretty badass giveaways for you guys who are purchasing the book on launch day and all of that amazingness. You're going to want to be there live. And in the meantime, hop over to her website. She mentioned it, butterflyfamilywellness.com, for all kinds of ways to get started on this healthy eating journey. But you guys realize from listening today, it's more than just healthy eating. It's the awareness behind it, which is what turns me on so much about you, Jen, just all of the awareness that you lay down on this topic and for us just to, improve our lives with. So thank you so much for what you're doing in the world and for being here today to share it with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And thanks for helping me get this out to everybody.
So you guys, I love to end the show with a big juicy question. So here it is. What if there's something you haven't learned yet about healthy eating that could change everything? Time to be brave about that, you guys. See you next time. Love what you heard today. Don't forget to drop down and hit that subscribe button, you guys, and then join me over at bravehealer.com for just a little bit more healing badassery. Have a great one.